Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. We begin tonight with an extensive police search that is underway in Essex County. Windsor Police says it's connected to a missing man whose safety they fear for. Dalson Chen has more.
Windsor Police have taken an unusual measure in their investigation into the disappearance of a local man. They've been searching roadside ditches in Essex County, outside of Windsor Police jurisdiction. Officers could be seen carefully examining areas along Albuena Town Line, north of Leamington and Kingsville. Police are not explaining what those officers were looking for, but it concerns 37-year-old David Paveo, who has been missing since August 14th. Staff Sergeant Joe Fadul of the Major Crimes Unit wouldn't say if investigators believe there's been foul play.
All I can tell you is obviously if we're out here with this kind of manpower, we have something that led us out here. Right now it's a missing persons case with where we have concern for Mr. Pavea's safety. We go with where the evidence leads us, and today we're here in Kingsville. We actually might be standing in Leamington right now, but it's where we're at.
A lifelong Windsor resident, David Paveo, was last seen in the city's West End around Brock Street. He's described as a black male with a light complexion, 5'9" with a medium build. He has multiple tattoos on both his arms. Windsor police were initially looking for a 41-year-old woman along with Paveo. That woman was located by police at the end of August. Police will not comment about her further. Fadul said OPP were notified about Windsor police venturing into their jurisdiction.
We will do our due diligence to make sure that if foul play has occurred, that this investigation is run properly. So our guys are going to be moving slow throughout the area just to make sure that everything's covered properly.
Fadul said Paveo is known to police. The Major Crimes Unit continues to ask the public, including residents in the area of Albuena Town Line, to contact them with information that could be relevant to this case. Dalson Chen, CBC News, Kingsville.
Starting next year, it will be easier for people with certain types of jobs to find work in Ontario. In the past, those educated in other parts of Canada may have waited months to prove their qualifications. The CBC Windsor's Emma Loop explains.
Big changes are coming to Ontario's rules around who can work here and how quickly. Local trade and union representatives say that's a good thing despite our high unemployment rate.
The provincial government marked Labor Day by announcing that it was breaking down barriers for dozens of regulated professions. That means Canadian architects, engineers, electricians, and others will be able to come work in Ontario more easily.
We've decided that we are just shooting ourselves in the foot. If you are educated in Alberta or educated in Saskatchewan or Manitoba, you have the same quality of education, you have the same quality of experience. You've got similar environments or similar cultures. Why on earth are we duplicating all kinds of work to just prove what we already know?
The government says starting next year, Canadians in these professions can start working in Ontario within 10 days of their credentials being confirmed, instead of months. In a statement, Finance Minister Peter Bethlen-Falvey said the move fights the economic uncertainty caused by U.S. tariffs, and that it helps the country deliver on the nation-building projects that will make us the most competitive economy in the G7. The head of a local union that represents engineers and electricians is applauding the change, even if it means more competition for work.
Overall, in the economic challenge situation we are in today, with a tariff and with a trade war being declared on Canadian sovereignty, I believe this is one step in the right direction, and we need to do more of that. We are a one country, one economy.
Naboo and others say having better access to professionals outside the province can help keep projects here from stalling, which keeps locals on the job too.
You'll sometimes be on a project and you'll need a specific expertise of a consultant that may be someone who specializes, say, in hospitals or research facilities.
A local electrician also praised the province's move, saying it'll actually help him hire more people from Windsor, Essex. He says he's had trouble finding the more senior, licensed electricians called journeymen that he needs.
I find that there's a lot of new apprentices coming into the market, but the problem is with electrical, we have to have a journeyman to apprentice ratio, and finding a journeyman right now is extremely hard. And I find this move will actually help us out because now I can pull a journeyman from out of province and then I can hire 2 local apprentices.
The next step is for other provinces to enact similar changes to allow Ontario's professionals the same flexibility, something Dowie says is well underway. That way, people here who are looking for work have access to other markets too. Emma Loop, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette, some of that rain you were talking about late yesterday, but today a pretty nice sunny day.
Yeah, we really broke out of it once that front moved through and the rain associated with it carrying on into eastern Ontario now. So that's one boundary. Another one, a secondary front that's going to be coming through tomorrow, though, could pose some problems with some very strong winds. Because of that, a special weather statement with winds possibly gusting 70 to 90 kilometers an hour as we move through the day on Friday. So do be aware that that can bring down some tree limbs, which can bring down power lines and lead to power outages. That risk is there. Tomorrow morning, 13 after a low of 10 and 23 because those windy conditions out of the southwest pushing our temperature up a little bit. So pleasant in other ways other than that.
All right. Thanks so much, Colette. Well, there will be no appeal for a not guilty verdict in the case of a Windsor Police Staff Sergeant, Ken Price. He was previously accused of sexually assaulting a female colleague at work. A Ministry of the Attorney General spokesperson made no comment about why officials decided not to appeal that verdict. It was a judge-alone trial that ended in July after 5 days of testimony. Ontario Court Justice Jennifer Myers found Price not guilty on all 4 counts of sexual assault. However, while delivering her decision, she said very clearly that she doesn't believe that the complainant lied. In fact, Myers said she finds it highly likely that Price sexually harassed the complainant, but the judge said she couldn't find beyond a reasonable doubt that Price committed sexual assault. The judge also said she called the officer's own testimony unreliable and self-serving. The complainant made 4 allegations against Price between 2011 and 2015 that she said occurred at the police training branch. Her identity continues to be protected by a publication ban. Tonight we bring you the first piece in CBC Windsor's Stories from Sandwich series. It's a neighborhood on the cusp of change as the Gordie Howe International Bridge is set to open in a matter of months. We'll be exploring community issues including air quality all the way to things like derelict homes. The first of our series looks at how this area has been left underserviced and the call for this to change. Pratush Dayal reports.
This is a stopgap measure. This should not have happened.
In Sandwich, this longtime resident has been relying on Dollarama and convenience stores in place of a grocery store for years.
As a food desert, I tell people, yes, we need fresh fruits and vegetables every day. We need fresh meat every day.
But to get to that, he has to leave Sandwich, crossing Huron Church to get to the closest grocery stores. CBC tagged along as Kennedy embarked on his weekly grocery trip. A 10-minute drive for many, but for Kennedy and many seniors living in the community without cars, it becomes a treacherous 45-minute walk one way in an area bustling with truck traffic. There is no bank, gas station or post office in Sandwich, and limited bus routes in the neighborhood.
They're making West Windsor like the armpit of Windsor.
In her 50 years of living in Sandwich, Andrea Turner says she has seen access to basic services only get worse. She says the historic town, once a critical stop on the Underground Railroad and rich with Canadian history, is now dilapidated.
Like that's what Sandwich is. Sandwich isn't in Windsor's backyard. Like that's the way they treat us. Like we're not here.
This resident walks everywhere in Sandwich and says he finds the roads and sidewalks concerning.
If we could continue the work that's been done on Sandwich to more residential roads like Peter and everything like that, I think that'd be really beneficial, especially just out of the safety for residents.
This University of Windsor professor says Sandwich is one of the most underserved communities in the region. More core services would help transform the neighborhood.
Research shows is that having those core amenities in the neighborhood and within a walkable distance makes a big difference for a neighborhood. It makes a difference to individuals' health because they now have access to those amenities. It makes it more affordable generally because it removes the cost of transportation.
A 2013 University of Windsor study identified Sandwich Town as one of 2 food deserts in Windsor, the other Fort City.
A decade later, Smith says situation remains practically unchanged.
Residents are urging change before the Gordie Howe International Bridge opens in the coming months, making Sandwich a gateway to Canada. Pradesh Dayal, CBC News, Windsor.
A massive expansion at Windsor's port worth tens of millions of dollars will help connect local farmers to the rest of the world. The CBC's Chris Ensing has that story.
ADM is celebrating a massive expansion of their facility at the Port Windsor terminal. They say that this project will be a key piece of securing southwestern Ontario farmers' access to global markets. 4 giant silos tower over this terminal on the edge of the Detroit River, a big part of the project announced last year. This $76 million expansion, a third of it paid for by the federal government, finished on budget, ahead of schedule, and just in time. 75% of farms from Windsor to London truck their grain to this terminal, and fall harvest is around the corner.
We had really reached our limits on capacity on what we could do, and now we're going to be able to buy more grain from farmers and supply our customers more efficiently and have the opportunity to export more grain.
This terminal handles canola, corn, and soybeans, storing, drying, and shipping. It has rail and water access, a key advantage in getting a farmer's harvest to market. Trucks would head to Hamilton if it weren't for Windsor. More miles, more money, more time. The expansion makes this site more efficient with new grain dryers and increases storage capacity by 30%.
When we hear the American administration say we don't need Canada, we're your biggest customer. We're a massive customer for you for grain processing, for grain shipments around the globe, and for processing into vegetable oils. This is the largest grain facility on the Great Lakes. We're a major player. Farmers in Southwest Ontario, farmers in the American Midwest, all depend on this plant. So it's not so much that we count on America for a market for this plant. We do for a lot of operations, but not for this plant. But America counts on this plant for their farmers.
The expansion doesn't mean more employees at this time, but officials say it is stability for the 150 people who work here. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
Latest data from Stats Canada shows the country's trade deficit shrank in July, most of it thanks to an increase in energy and vehicle exports. Donald Trump's tariffs have forced many businesses to alter their supply chains and seek other markets. But the ongoing trade war with Canada's closest neighbor leaves the future uncertain. CBC's Anis Hadari reports.
The gap between the amount Canada sells to the world and how much it buys from the world was smaller in July compared to the month before. Canadian exports of merchandise went up 0.9%.
I would say general impression was that the July figures weren't as bad as feared, and so they do put Canada kind of on track for potentially modest growth in the third quarter, although it's still obviously quite early in the quarter to be able to tell definitively.
Energy exports went up, including oil and coal. That's after crude oil exports fell the month before. And it wasn't just higher prices driving things upward. A higher volume of exported crude oil was part of July's increase. Motor vehicle exports also up, though that is also factoring in that usually automotive production would slow down in the summer, and this summer it didn't because tariffs had already caused a big slowdown earlier. So when you factor in that June was already slower, July saw more cars and autos sold to the United States in particular. And the trade relationship with the U.S. is still in focus here. One example, some aluminum exports down 31%. And while overall exports to the U.S. are up in July for the third month in a row, they are still down compared to last year. So how trading continues with Canada's largest trading partner remains a question mark.
I think abnormality is kind of the new normal here, but hopefully we do get to some sort of normal or some sort of stability here when we hopefully, fingers crossed, get some sort of a trade deal with the US. Of course, that's not going to totally remove all uncertainty. We're still in a very weird, highly uncertain time.
One number worth noting in the other direction, in this latest data, imports to Canada from the United States fell for the fourth time in 5 months. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
A live look at some clouds floating above the Windsor-Detroit border. We have Colette Kennedy coming up a little later in the show with your latest weather forecast. Prime Minister Mark Carney met with his cabinet for a second day amid growing concern on two issues: government spending and Donald Trump's trade war. Ashley Burke has more on the meeting.
A sense of urgency from cabinet ministers on day 2 of talks.
People want us to be in action mode, and I think that there is urgency, and particularly when it comes to the economy.
Upheaval in Canada's economy, the result of Donald Trump's trade war.
Is there any sign from the Trump administration that they're open to easing up tariffs that are hitting some Canadian sectors hard?
Steel, aluminum, automobiles, softwood lumber. It's those sectoral tariffs where we are, in many cases, the most integrated of any trading partner with the United States, and they're causing enormous economic hardship to Canada.
Dominic LeBlanc says trade talks with the U.S. are now technical, focusing on reaching deals for different sectors.
A series of small deals that cumulatively would put us in a better position than right now.
As that work continues, the finance minister is working on reining in government spending.
Will there be tough choices to make? Definitely. Is the nation ready? I would say yes.
He's facing questions about potential cuts and layoffs after the Prime Minister said the budget would be about investment, but also austerity.
There'll be adjustment in different places, but at the same time, we're going to be empathic to make sure that we're always there for Canadians.
The Conservatives leader describing the government as way too big and bloated.
The government has become a big fat man. It's time to put that government on a diet.
The Prime Minister said during these 2 days of talks here, he was sitting down with ministers to find efficiencies. But the finance minister is being tight-lipped about the details. His budget is expected next month. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Toronto.
In Portugal's capital, the transit authority there has shut down all streetcars to carry out immediate inspections. Wednesday's deadly funicular crash killed at least 16 people and injured 21 others. Global Affairs says 2 Canadians are missing since the accident. Journalist Alison Roberts has the latest from Lisbon.
Portugal's Prime Minister calls the crash one of the greatest tragedies in the nation's recent history. Luís Montenegro is promising swift answers from police and forensic experts amid pressure to determine the causes of the disaster that killed and injured many foreign nationals as well as Portuguese. Police now say that with a high degree of probability, 2 Canadian nationals were among those who lost their lives. Global Affairs Canada says it is aware of 2 missing Canadians in Lisbon, but did not provide further details, citing privacy. The mayor of Lisbon says he has asked the municipal company that runs the funicular to commission an external investigation into the accident, as well as its own. Probes by prosecutors and the Transport Safety Authority are underway. But local media are focusing on reports that the cable that linked the 2 carriages may have detached and backup brakes failed. The Elevador da Gloria, as the 140-year-old funicular is known, was a major attraction, often packed with foreign tourists. Alison Roberts for CBC News, Lisbon.
One of the most recognizable figures in the global fashion industry has died. Italian designer Giorgio Armani passed away on Thursday. Starting with an unlined jacket, a simple pair of pants, and an urban palette, Armani put Italian ready-to-wear style on the international fashion map in the late 1970s. He soon turned the concept of understated elegance into a multi-billion-dollar fashion empire. In addition to clothing, his empire included accessories, home furnishings, perfumes, cosmetics, books, flowers, and even chocolates. Armani's net worth was estimated to be more than 13 billion Canadian dollars. He died at his home in Milan. He was 91. We're going to take a quick break, but before we go, we want to tell you about a local restaurant with a real beef to pick. Smokey's Barbecue on Ottawa Street tried to set an unofficial record for the world's longest beef kebab. That entailed cooking up quite a bit of meat.
I was just watching some videos online and I seen that Shelby Shawarma had the record for the longest shawarma in the world at 143 feet. And I said, why not? Let's top it because, we can do it. Why not? We got the muscle, we got the employees, we got friends.
They were aiming for 160 feet but came in short at about 80. Still to come here on CBC, Colette is standing by live with more weather. And Colette Kennedy joins us live for a look at weather. Colette, we keep talking about how comfortable it is, how cool it is, but I have to say I'm in kind of that zone where when I'm driving, I have both the windows down and the AC on. It's not quite enough to have one or the other. I'm kind of doing both.
I'm not sure where to go with that. I do that, but when I do that, it's because my dog's in the back and I want him to get air. It's always about him being comfortable. Yeah, just you. You need that kind of thing too. I got it. Well, in terms of our temperatures, you know, the highs today were 7 and 8 degrees cooler than what they were yesterday. So that's a bit of a changeover. And these are our current readings. So yeah, upper teens, that's where we're at, 18, 19 degrees, even cooler there. Goderich coming in along the shores of Lake Huron at 15 degrees. Winds are important. They're going to be really important tomorrow, and they won't go unnoticed. So we have some very strong winds that'll be coming our way as we move through the day on Friday. And some of these gusts, I know on this model they're showing them perhaps over 50, 60 kilometers an hour, but some of these gusts could even exceed 70 or even potentially beyond that. So that is something to be aware of through the day tomorrow, because when we get winds like that, yes, there's a special weather statement from Environment Canada. When we get winds like that, they can be dangerous. They can pose a problem, whether it's if you're walking, blowing things in your eyes, so you kind of could use some protection, your sunglasses, but they can also bring down tree limbs, which can bring down power lines, and then we get into power outages. So and the like. High-profile vehicles also, it can be very difficult, or very small vehicles on the highway. So all these things to keep in mind. And if you are going to be traveling a little further up towards the Bruce Peninsula and Lake Huron and around Georgian Bay, there are actually wind warnings where even stronger gusts there. So as we move through time, the rain's gone, long gone. It's moving even out of eastern Ontario, and behind it, some unsettled conditions and isolated shower chances there, but I think we mostly stay dry. It's just that we'll from time to time have a little bit of cloud cover coming in. Otherwise, a lot of sunshine, and that carries on even into Saturday, but we have an isolated shower chance on Saturday. Now the winds, the temperatures do dip to 10 degrees tonight, but by 6 a.m. they're already going to be up to 15 because of the southwesterly flow of those winds tomorrow. So they'll pull us up to about 23, depending how much sunshine we get. And then we do have some somewhat cooler below seasonal days and nights after that.
All right, thanks so much, Colette. And thank you for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Good night.